Hello, welcome to another episode of This, That, and the Other. And I have with me a October 7th, 1978 Ohio State football program that I picked up on a yard sale. You can get some good stuff on yard sales. You have to look around and yeah. I mean, if you want something immediately, you gotta look at eBay. But if you're patient, not really looking for something specifically, but just kind of have an idea of what you're looking for, just keep hitting yard sales. Sometimes things like this will come up. And today I'm going to be talking about the old Ohio State football coach, Woody Hayes. Born February 14th, 1913, died March 12th, 1987. American college football coach and player. He served as head coach at Denison University in 1946-1948, Miami University in Oxford, Ohio from 1949 to 1950, and Ohio State from 1951 to 1978, compiling a coaching record of 238, 72, and 10. Inducted in the College Football Hall of Fame as a coach in 1983. During his 28 years as head coach of the Ohio State's Buckeyes, he was recognized 5 times by NCAA consensus selectors as national champions: 1954, 1957, 1961, 1968, and 1970. Credited as 3: 1954, 1957, 1968 by the major wire services. Additionally, his teams captured 13 Big Conference titles and amassed a record of 205, 61, and 10. The last decade of his coaching career, his squads faced off a fierce rivalry with the Michigan Wolverines, coached by Bo Schembechler, a former player under and assistant coach to Hayes. During that stretch in the Michigan-Ohio State football rivalry, it was called the 10-Year War. Hayes and Schembechler teams won or shared the Big Conference crown every season, and usually each placed in national rankings. Yep, that was quite a big game when Ohio State took on Michigan. I read somewhere that I think it was 1975, Ohio State was winning in Michigan 50-14, and Woody Hayes at the very end attempted a 2-point conversion just to put more points on their team against Michigan. I heard that particular 2-point conversion failed. He was a native of Clifton, Ohio. He was the youngest of 3 children, born to Wayne B. and Effie Hupp Hayes. Played center at Newcomerstown High School in Newcomerstown, Ohio. Denison University. Played tackle under Coach Tom Rogers. Was a member of the Sigma Chi fraternity. After graduating from Denison in 1935, he went on to serve as an assistant at 2 Ohio high schools: Mingo Junction 1935-36 and New Philadelphia in 1937. When New Philadelphia head coach John Brickles left to accept another position, Hayes was elevated to the head coaching position, where he put together a 17-2-1 record in his first 2 seasons before enduring a 1-9 record in 1940. He enlisted in the U.S. Navy in 1941, eventually rising to the rank of lieutenant commander during World War II. He commanded the PC-1251 in the Palua Islands invasion and destroyer escort USS Reinhardt in both the Atlantic and Pacific operations. He earned a reputation for beating up officers and sailors who violated regulations or failed to follow orders. I'm getting this information off of the internet, stuff that I'm reading just as I go along and look at information on him. At the end of World War II, Hayes' alma mater at Denison University was pursuing plans to reinstate its football program, which had been suspended during the war. It contacted former head coach Rogers, also in the Navy, about rejoining the program as head coach, Rogers declined, but recommended that his former team captain Hayes should be named the next head coach. Dennison was able to locate and give Hayes an offer, which he accepted. Minutes before his Navy ship was to begin voyage through the Panama Canal, meaning Hayes would have been incommunicado for an extended period of time. Upon returning to Dennison in 1946, he had a hard first year, only winning 2 games over Capital in the season finale against Wittenberg. However, that victory sparked a 19-game winning streak, a surge that propelled him into the head coaching position at Miami University. Miami is recognized as a cradle of coaches because of its history of outstanding coaches started their careers there, such as Paul Brown, Eric Orsegan, Weeb Eubank, John Pont, Bill Mallory, Sid Gelman, Randy Walker, and Bo Schembechler. After the 1947 season, Gelman moved down the road to coach at the University of Cincinnati, which was then Miami's chief rivalry. Hayes and Gelman maintained a sparkling feud between themselves, combining mutual distaste for the other's coaching style because they were in recruiting competition in the same general area. Second year with the Miami Redskins, Hayes led the 1950 team to an appearance in the Salad Bowl, which they defeated Arizona State. That success led him to accept the Ohio State head coaching position on February 18, 1951. It was a controversial decision after the university rejected the applications of other more well-known coaches, including Buckeyes head coach Paul Brown, incumbent Buckeye assistant Harry Strable, and Missouri head coach Dan Farrow. His basic coaching philosophy was that nobody could win football games unless they regarded the game positively and would agree to pay the price that success demands of a team. In spite of the coach that did everything he could to avoid change, he did become one of the first major college head coaches to recruit African American players, including Jim Parker, who played both offensive and defensive tackle on Hayes' first national championship in 1954. While Hayes was not the first to recruit African Americans to Ohio State, he was the first to recruit and start African Americans in large numbers there and hire African American assistant coaches. Another recruit, Archie Griffin, was the only 2-time Heisman Trophy winner in 7 decades of selections. More notable coaches such as Lou Holtz, Bill Arnsparger, Bill Mallory, Bo Schembechler, Doit Perry, and Eric Orsegan, and Woody's successor Earl Bruce served as assistants at various times for Coach Hayes. He often used illustrations from historical events to make his point in his coaching and teaching. When he was first hired at Ohio State, he was also made full professor of physical education, having earned a MA degree in educational administration from Ohio State in 1948. Classes he taught were usually full, and he was called Professor Hayes by students. Hayes also taught mandatory English and vocabulary classes to his freshman football players. One of his students was a basketball player named Bobby Knight, who later became a legendary basketball coach. Interesting. Picture of Woody Hayes in 1958. During his tenure at Ohio State, he joked that he was considered himself to be Notre Dame's best recruiter because he could not convince a recruit to come to Ohio. If he could not convince a recruit to come to Ohio State instead of Michigan, he would try to steer the recruit to Notre Dame, whom Ohio State did not play. Interesting. While Hayes' public stance was that he refused to play Notre Dame because he was afraid of polarizing the Catholic population in Ohio, Notre Dame's longtime athletic director, Edward Moose Krause, said that Hayes had told him that Hayes liked having Michigan as the only tough game on the Ohio State schedule, and having the Buckeyes play Notre Dame would detract from that. Despite Hayes' apparent fear of playing one more tough game a year, Ohio State still managed to schedule regular season games with Nebraska, Washington, Southern California, UCLA, and Oklahoma during his tenure. An incident in 1959, following a 17-0 loss to USC, he threw a punch at Los Angeles Examiner sports writer Al Bine, who asked Hayes why he lost but missed and punched the brother of why he lost. He missed and punched the brother of Pasadena independent sports editor Bob Schaefer in the back instead. Prior to the 1973 Rose Bowl, Hayes shoved a camera in the face of a news photographer. As a result, Hayes was suspended for 3 games, fined $2,000, and left California with a subpoena. 1977, late fumble at Michigan caused Hayes to charge at ABC cameraman Mike Friedman, who recorded his frustration while laughing at him. Hayes was ejected and put on probation by the Big Ten Conference and fined $2,000. After that incident, I remember hearing some interview with I believe it was the athletic director of Ohio State at the time. Some official from Ohio State said he had told Woody Hayes that one more incident and he'd be out as coach. On December 29, 1978, the Buckeyes played in the Gator Bowl against Clemson late in the fourth quarter. Clemson was leading Ohio State 17-15. Freshman quarterback Art Schlichter managed to get Ohio State into field goal range on 3rd and 5 at the Clemson 24-yard line with 2:30 left and the clock running. Hayes called a pass rather than run because Schlichter was having a great game up to that point. Schlichter's next pass was intercepted by Clemson nose guard Charlie Ballman, who returned it toward the Ohio State sideline where it was run out of bounds. After Ballman stood up facing the OSU sideline, Hayes punched him in the throat, triggering a bench-clearing brawl. Hayes stormed on the field in a profanity-laced tirade, was abusive toward the referee. When one of Hayes' own players, offensive lineman Ken Fritz, tried to intervene, Hayes turned on him and had to be restrained by defensive coordinator George Hill. Buckeyes were assessed 2 15-yard unsportsmanlike conduct penalties for Hayes' attack on Ballman and his abuse towards the referee. Ballman was not injured, but Hayes punched and shrugged the incident off, even though the game was being telecast by ABC. Neither announcer Keith Jackson nor co-announcer Ari Parsegan saw or commented about the punch. Yeah, I did. I remember watching that game it was on Friday night, and yeah, they did not comment on it. I'm not sure that they didn't see the punch happen, but they didn't comment on it. But as a result, he was fired the next day. I remember hearing about it. Next morning, after a brief but heated meeting in which profanities were exchanged, Hinman told the athletic director told Hayes that he had been fired. At a press conference held at the hotel where the team had been staying, the team returned to Columbus around noon, and Hayes left the airport in a state police car. Regarding Hayes' dismissal, Anderson said, "There isn't a university or athletic conference in this country that would permit a coach to physically assault a college athlete." After the incident, Hayes reflected on his career by saying, "Nobody despises to lose more than I do. That's got me into trouble over the years, but it also made a man of mediocre ability into a pretty good coach." After 2 months after the incident, Hayes called Ballman into his dorm room, but did not apologize for his previous attack on him. Earl Bruce succeeded Hayes as Ohio State's football coach. March 11, 1987, Hayes was clearly in failing health when he had someone drive him in his pickup truck to Dayton to introduce Bo Schembechler, who was speaking at a banquet. Organizers had tried to discourage Hayes from attending, but Hayes insisted. He gave a lengthy introduction to Schembechler, then stayed to hear him speak before being driven home. Next morning, March 12th, Hayes' wife Ann found him unconscious in his bed in the couple's home. He died of a heart attack at age 74. He is interred at the Union Cemetery in Columbus, Ohio. But you want to see, if you haven't seen the incident against Clemson, it's all over YouTube. You can find the footage where he punched the Clemson player after the Clemson player intercepted the football. I saw some source that said that the Woody Hayes claimed the Clemson football player was waving the ball at the Clemson bench when he after he intercepted. I don't know. I haven't been able to find any evidence of that. But anyway, that's what I was able to come up with on Woody Hayes, an unusual football coach. I had not found out about him until like a year before that happened. First time I ever saw him on television was the 1977 Sugar Bowl, where they got very badly beaten by University of Alabama. That was 1976 was kind of the first year that I really started watching football. And 77, I guess, when they had the bowl games on, was when I probably first started watching college football. And I remember my dad was a University of Alabama alumnus, and my dad was showing me Paul Bear Bryant coaching Alabama in that game. And I remember later on, Bear Bryant's team won the national championship against the undefeated Penn State, Joe Paterno's team. And that was what I was able to find out on Woody Hayes. And I read a lot of stuff that I found on various websites about him. And like I said, I'm looking for ideas on shows to do in the future. Have any idea? Give it to me. I'll research it if it's feasible for me to do. I don't do shows on politics, anything political. That being said, like, subscribe, share. As always, thanks for watching.